Listening in here to Minister Bethlenfalvy speaking about the latest numbers out for the Ford government.
2023-24 third quarter finances. Today's report provides an update on Ontario's economic and fiscal outlook for this year, the first since the release of the 2023 Ontario Economic Outlook and Fiscal Review, otherwise known as the Fall Economic Statement, or the FES. I'm pleased to report that inflationary pressure has eased somewhat on households across the province, providing some much-needed relief to millions of Ontarians and their families. That said, high interest rates from the Bank of Canada, as well as uncertainty around consumer price inflation, continue to pose risks to Ontario's economic outlook. Nevertheless, in spite of this uncertainty, Ontario's economy remains resilient and is expected to see continued growth in 2024. Je suis heureux de signaler que la pression inflationniste a quelque peu diminué sur les ménages dans l'ensemble de la province, ce qui apporte un répit dont avaient grandement besoin des millions d'Ontariennes et d'Ontariens et leurs familles. Cela dit, les taux d'intérêt élevés de la Banque du Canada, ainsi que l'incertitude entourant l'inflation des prix à la consommation, continuaient de présenter des risques pour les perspectives économiques de l'Ontario. Toutefois, malgré cette incertitude, l'économie de l'Ontario demeure résiliente et devrait continuer à croître en 2024. Over the last few months, I've had the immense privilege of traveling across the province as part of our government's pre-budget consultation process, meeting with people and businesses in their communities on the direction they would like to see our province move in. And I know from my travels across Ontario that people continue to feel the pressures of these uncertain times. That is why we will continue to find ways to put money back in the pockets of people and protect them from new taxes and fees. From reducing transportation and transit costs, to childcare and education, to medical and health care, to the targeted tax supports and grants we have implemented over the years. We know this continues to be a challenging time for many, but Ontario has proven time and time that together we can overcome any obstacle that is in our way. And thanks to our government's responsible, targeted plan, Building a Strong Ontario, we continue supporting families, workers and businesses while laying a strong fiscal foundation for future generations. Real GDP growth has been slowing in part due to the high impact of interest rates. Following a 0.4% increase in the second quarter of 2023, Ontario's real GDP was unchanged in the third calendar of 2023. The 2023-24 third quarter finances projects a deficit of $4.5 billion in 23-24, which is an improvement of $1.1 billion compared to the fall economic statement I tabled in November of 2023. This improvement to the deficit is primarily due to increased revenue and lower interest on debt expense. We are in a good fiscal position while continuing to build infrastructure and that we need now and for the future. The revenue outlook in 23-24 is projected to be $0.9 billion higher than expected in the 2023 fall economic statement. And this is due to stronger than expected broader public sector revenues, slightly higher taxation revenue, and transfers from the Government of Canada. Overall expense in 23-24 is projected to be $193.4 billion, $2.8 billion higher than forecast in the 2023 budget, and $0.4 billion higher than forecast in the 2023 fall economic statement. As we navigate ongoing economic uncertainty, one thing I have absolute confidence in is Ontario's workers, families, and people. And I have confidence in our government's targeted, prudent plan that will help stay the course while creating stronger communities in the future. We will continue to manage the province's finances responsibly, because that's exactly what the people of this province expect, and that is what they deserve. Nous continuerons à gérer les finances de la province de façon responsable, parce que c'est exactement ce à quoi s'attend la population de la province et ce qu'elle mérite. We will be delivering the next economic and fiscal update on or before March 31st as part of the 2024 budget. Thank you, and I would now be happy to take any questions.
When it comes to the Bill 124 ruling today, can you tell us, will the government be appealing this to the Supreme Court?
Thank you, Richard. We thank the courts for processing that decision, and I would say this: I haven't been briefed yet on the decision, and I suspect others in my government haven't. So we'll take the time to take a look at it thoughtfully and deliberately. I know it affects a lot of people, so we want to make sure, in the period of time that we have to make a decision, we'll be thoughtful about it.
Since it's their money, can you tell the people of Ontario today how many taxpayer dollars has been spent appealing this case, sir?
I don't have that figure, but I think it's the prudent thing to do when it's a big policy issue that we have in front of us. It was very thoughtful when we tabled it in 2019. It continues to impact a lot of people on all sides of the issue, so we're going to be very thoughtful again, Richard, and deliberate about the choices that we may make, and we'll have more to say in the near future.
Are you disappointed in the ruling?
Look, I believe in democracy and I believe in the rule of law, but I also believe that we got to let the process continue, and that's why I'm going to take some time to review it. I'll get briefed on it, and our government will also take a hard look at it.
Your bill, when you first introduced this, I remember you taking a question saying that you believed it would hold up to court scrutiny. You've had time to reflect on it since then. What are your thoughts?
Well, we have had, and thank you, as in 2019, it was a different environment at that point, different levels of inflation, different context. We definitely went out and consulted. We were very thoughtful about when we tabled it. It was time limited and targeted for 3 years. Of course, we know that COVID hit and a bunch of other things happened. So, I tell you, there'll be lots of time for reflection at the appropriate time.
Can you talk about the financial impacts if your government doesn't appeal this decision?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. One of the things about the current law of the land is that we are continuing to work with bargaining agents and others on various processes like arbitration to find that balance of fairness, representing taxpayers and the needs and wants of workers. And so we've been very constructive throughout the last period of time and incorporating those, what I would call those, they call them Bill 124 reopeners or the catch-ups, and we've incorporated that into our expenditures.
Can you tell us how much? How much is that? How much, if you've incorporated that into your expenditures, how much is that expected to cost in total, and how much have you spent so far?
Yeah, I don't have a specific number, but what I can say is that within the expenditures, even today, that we've tabled in Q3, some of the, for example, in the report we highlight that healthcare compensation numbers are incorporated, and I can also say that we just had an arbitration decision last Friday with regard to the education workers in terms of some catch up with regard to their compensation. So it's a moving thing. All I can say is that we're very prudent in making sure that we plan responsibly, and that we'll continue to meet the needs of both the taxpayers and workers in Ontario.
So was Bill 124 a failure then? I mean, you've been ruled against in 2 court decisions, and you tell us you're budgeting for reopeners and catch-ups. So, what did you really achieve?
Again, I haven't had a chance to review the decision, and I will, and get briefed on it as well. And again, we have some time to do that, and we'll be very thoughtful and deliberate about it, and I'm not going to rush to any conclusions.
Do you have a dollar figure, Peter, for the arbitration decision on Friday? Do you know how much that's going to cost the Treasury?
I do not.
Minister, do you also have a dollar figure for, people watching the Super Bowl last night saw a taxpayer-funded ad, the government essentially, patting itself on the back. How many taxpayer dollars were spent on that ad, sir?
Yeah, I don't have that figure, but I will say this. I think it's great that the government of Ontario promotes Ontario. I'll be in the corner of Ontarians all day long. We have a great story to tell, and I got to tell you, I travel around the world, and whenever I go outside of Ontario, it's our brand is very strong, and we shouldn't run away from telling that story. And again, all governments do that of all stripes, and I think it's a good use of money to attract workers, to attract businesses, to make Ontarians feel good about themselves.
When you submit those ads to the Auditor General, you actually have to provide an estimated budget for how much the production and the airtime is going to cost. So a little confused as to why you don't have a rough idea of how much the government is spending on this campaign to promote Ontario.
I don't have that specific figure at my fingertips. We can follow up with you, but I'm out here every 90 days, as you know, talking about how the finances of the province have gone. I'll be out again within too much time again on the budget, and I'll be out again in August for the first quarter. I'll be out again in September on the public accounts, and then again out on the second quarter in the fall economic statement. We always allocate a certain amount to your question about how much government advertises, and I think that's always been done thus by governments of all stripes, and will continue to do that.
Minister, it does 1.7 billion in additional health spending. I think you said some of that is going towards these Bill 124 reopeners. Is any of that also going towards the hospitals to help them with their operating deficits? I know Jessica reported today that some of that money was on the way, perhaps?
Absolutely. And so, we have been working very closely with the hospital sector and very constructively. They will be receiving significant amounts of funding in the very near term as we roll that out.
Just how much? Do you have an estimate?
I don't have that number, but it's a significant amount.
To clarify exactly what she was asking about, though, is the money that is coming, is that part of that 1.7 billion we're seeing here, or is that going to be reflected at the year end?
I think that's going to be as part of, if it's rolled out in Q4, it won't be part of Q3, it's part of Q4.
How about the universities that are facing deficits, bunch of deficits in the university sector?
Well, one thing we've been clear on is that we're not raising tuition, so we're going to work with the college and university sector. We'll have something out shortly, but we'll also work with the federal government. One of the things that I think is very important is that we continue to attract the best and brightest around the world, that we continue to support our colleges and universities, world-class institutions, and that we think not just about the short term, it's a 2-year cap, but also the long term, so that we continue to attract the best and brightest around the world, and that we support our institutions.
On that note, thanks. It doesn't sound like you're too concerned about the back pay. You say you've accounted for it in your expenditure. So why fight this ruling?
Well, I'm always concerned about the numbers, so let's be clear on that. But I think I'm also a prudent fiscal manager, and so that's why you build in contingencies. That's why every quarter we update the numbers. And as they roll out, these decisions, these discussions, for example, I just highlighted the Education Arbitration Award that was given out on Friday. That'll be, we'll have to roll out those numbers and report out in Q4, which will be part of our budget document delivering by honor before March 31st.
Back to this question of the appeal and so on. Well, I'm trying to figure out what the point of that would be. The horse has left the barn. You're not going to go back in and reopen the reopeners, are you?
As I said, I'm not going to speculate on what we may or may not do, but first step will be get briefed and review the decision.
So you might do that then, these reopeners, we keep hearing about all these decisions, arbitration decisions. If the government wins, say, at the Supreme Court, you're going to go back in and reopen the reopeners and put everyone back down to 1%?
I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is I'm not going to speculate on what we may or may not do, and that it starts with actually reviewing the decision. I have not had a chance to even read parts of the decision. I haven't had a chance. I'm sure many of my colleagues in government haven't had a chance. This is a significant thing, and we want to make sure we take the time to be thoughtful and deliberate and look at the context both for and against the decision that was tabled today.
So would the strategy then be you'd want to, if you were to win an appeal, then reimpose 1% caps in the future on future?
Jeff, I'm just not going to speculate on strategy. I'm not. I know you want a headline, but I'm not going to speculate on that strategy.
Minister, your document today says that there's a $583 million increase in the college sector. What is that for?
On the expense side? Yes. Yeah, that's to support, and there's also a similar increase in revenues. As students come in, you get revenues, and of course you have to fund a bunch of things that go along with that. So there's both a revenue and expense, and that reflects their costs of running business, their colleges.
Okay, so how far is your government willing to go to ensure that no college or university in this province goes bankrupt as a result of some of the decisions from your government and the decision made by the federal government? How much money are you guys willing to put up?
Well, I think it's important to, we'll have more to say about that in the near future, but I think it's important to recognize that we have some of the best colleges and universities in the world right here, and I think they deserve amount of support. At the same time, they have a certain accountability. They have their boards of governors, to make sure that they operate effectively and efficiently, and we have about 47, 48 universities and colleges, so we'll take a close look at that. And of course, it's not our goal or anyone's goal to see anyone have hardship. We did see Laurentian University have some challenges. Every case is different, so we'll be thoughtful again about how we look at that.
But back in November, the Blue Ribbon panel had recommended a 10% increase to university and college budgets. Universities have been calling for that amount. Colleges, I believe, have been calling for about 5%. Are you going to meet what the Blue Ribbon panel had recommended to your government? Because you guys asked them for the report, and this is exactly what they told you.
Well, I think on one piece of it, the tuition increase, I think the Premier has been clear that this isn't the time to increase tuitions when people are hurting, but the cost of everything's gone up. So that aspect of the Blue Ribbon panel is our intention not to follow. But as I said at the outset, we're looking at the whole university and college system, and of course this policy decision out of Ottawa, which came pretty quickly, has consequences, and so both fiscally and, as I said, in terms of the people that the students that we get from around the world, because we need more personal support workers, we need more healthcare workers, we need more construction and skilled trades, we need more engineers. So this has an impact, and so this is not just about colleges and universities and the fiscal side and the federal government. This is about also the people we attract to this country.
So you've definitively ruled out a tuition fee increase, I'm guessing, for this upcoming school year.
We've been listening in to Ontario Finance Minister Peter Bethlenfalvy answering questions from reporters and, of course, following the release of the province's third quarter finances. Now, the provincial deficit stands at $4.5 billion, a $1.1 billion decrease from the 2023 economic outlook. It also calls Ontario's economy resilient, but touched on uncertain times for Ontarians playing a factor in these new numbers. We also heard Bethlenfalvy answer questions around the Bill 124 ruling, said he wouldn't speculate on a potential Supreme Court appeal, but also didn't have answers around the cost of a legal fight for taxpayers or the total cost of repaying public sector workers for their wage losses.